Hello, thanks for having me today. My name's Jessica Martinez. I'm the Regional Director of Sales for Luxor One. We provide smart package management solutions to mostly multifamily communities, but we also work in the commercial segment as well. I've been in the multifamily space for over 10 years, started my career on site and moved over to the technology and supplier side. I've been at Luxor for about 7 years now. So I'm excited to be here and talk more about sustainability.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica.
I'll go next. So my name is Xander Alexander. I'm with Motorola Solutions as what is called a technical evangelist. Basically, go around and I talk about Motorola's portfolio in different conferences and panels such as these. And my background pertains to about 20 years within the IT cybersecurity space.
Fantastic.
Hey, go ahead,
everybody.
Andrew.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everybody, Sia, for putting on this event. My name is Andrew Campagnola. I am the Director of Product Management for Castle Systems. We are a managed service provider that provides access video and multiple different technologies for a number of different sectors in our industry. Previous to Castle, I've been in multiple different roles in our industry for multiple different companies, spanning from very large to very small, as a manufacturer and integrator, and as well as an end user. So yeah, very happy to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Andrew. And I'm Dan Kremant. So I'm with Delta Electronics and a company that offers smart building solutions. So a combination of building automation, lighting, security, kind of putting it all together. And I'm also chair of the Built Environment Advisory Board. And before doing this, I was with March Shellworks. I was head of product management for about 10 years. And before that, I was at Tyco, serving various roles. So again, thanks to the panel for joining us. So we're here to talk about how to leverage physical security solutions to make organizations more sustainable. I think it's really, a very important subject, trying to basically figure out when you're in front of people talking about sustainability, about ESG, how things like video and access control and other physical security solutions can make a difference. So that's really the purpose of the presentation. So let's talk a little bit, if you go to the next slide, about the Built Environment Advisory Board. So this started a number of years ago. It really started out as the PropTech Advisory Board. And the idea was basically to look at these different markets and try to understand, again, how to leverage physical security. So as the team grew and I became the chair, we expanded and started talking about PropTech and smart buildings. Again, we're trying to educate and provide value to the industry about how to use these different things together and to really for the benefit of everyone. So the board consists of, people like on this call. We have other manufacturers. We have a few engineering consultants. We get together about once a month and we talk about, how we can, help the industry. And then we publish this information on our website. So that's a little bit about the board. So let's get into the topic here. So I actually use ChatGPT, and I put this question about how to leverage physical security solutions to help with sustainability. And I didn't ask for an image, but this is what it gave me. So there's not really much information here. So, we got together here, the group on the call, and we said, so let's try to pick a few key topics and discuss like what we could share based on our experience and our best practice. So that's really what we're going to do in the call. So we came up with 4 topics. Going to the next slide here that you'll see in a second. And really what we're going to do is start off talking about mobile credentials. We're going to talk about cloud-based solutions. We're going to talk about something, lead certification. I think is really interesting. And in the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about, how you can use video access control to save energy. And that I think you'll find interesting and kind of surprising. So let's kick it off and talk about mobile credentials. And Andrew, I'm going to let you start with this and go through it for everyone.
Sure. Thanks, Dan. So yeah, mobile credentials, we've been talking about it for many years now. It's not new by any means, but we're starting to see more and more organizations and end users starting to take on the mobile credentials, but for different reasons. From an ESG standpoint, that's not typically the reason that people are thinking of it. They're thinking of it more specifically on maybe on the social side of things, but more for convenience and for security. But there's a huge environmental impact as well to mobile credentials over what we would talk about physical credentials and PVC cards that make up the physical credential world. So when we think about like environmental, you could see on the screen here, there's many different aspects of a sustainability standpoint that says mobile credentials are actually better for the environment, pretty significantly as well. These are a little bit of the highlights that we put on here as, 75% CO2 emissions, and a few other things here, but like there's a lot as well. Smog, for instance, I mean, there's like 92% less smog production has been said from different independent reports from some of the large organizations, including one that sponsors this, Assa Abloy. They got an independent third party to come in and do an analysis on this. So there's a lot that would say about this. From a social and governance standpoint, we know that there's more security in the physical in the mobile credential space, just based on the fact that we can new technologies come out. It's easier to deploy these things on a mobile device, on a mobile sector, on a physical card or a physical space. Like that technology is built in that card, and it's staying there, right? I mean, that is what it is. So we will see a bunch of different reasons here on the screen, and I'd love to dive in deeper if you have any pointed questions on how we can. How we see this from a sustainability standpoint.
Yeah, that's great, Andrew. By the way, if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them and we'll get to me in the call. Andrew, I was looking at an article, I think 2 weeks ago, I think I shared with you something over in Asia where they were talking about how mobile credentials are important from a sustainability standpoint. And, it's like one personal story. I think after I didn't share with you, but, I was taking my dog for a walk in my park right outside where I live. And I literally found an HID card in the grass, like it's a big soccer playground. So not sure what to do with that. I mean, someone wants a card, but again, that's a simple example of how, I think mobile credentials can help with that. I mean, because it's always on your phone, and, as organizations change and the people change, the mobile credentials can easily change with it without causing an impact to the environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge talking point, especially for mobile credential advocates. I mean, if you look at the way that you provision a current card today, like you can see it on the social side of things, right? The faster onboarding and the over-the-air provisioning. I mean, think about it if you were a remote employee and you need to get a card for the random time that you might need to go into an office, because as we know, nobody goes into offices anymore, right? Obviously kidding. But from that standpoint, like you need to go get that card, right? So there's a few different ways we can get that card into a remote employee's hands, right? We can ship it to them, right? And use, trucking and the mail, logistics standpoint, which obviously takes on a lot from a fossil fuel standpoint. We can have them show up at an office and coordinate that time period with them, and it's just there's logistics that have to happen. With a mobile credential, you don't need to do that, right? I mean, if they're in their office, if they're in their home office or whatnot, you can send that to them digitally, and then they get it. And I mean, if they never even show up at the office, like it was a net nothing, right? Net zero there. If we need to potentially get some more credentials to them or update them, or there's new technology, it's the same exact scenario. So the same goes the opposite way, right? When we're offboarding employees or we're offboarding different residents on the multifamily side, the same thing. You don't need to worry about hey, did you collect that card from them? Which, in Dan, your point, somebody did not collect that card, right? It ended up in the grass somewhere. So this is one of those standpoints where it can very much so help from the operation standpoint, and help very much so on the environmental impact.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them. We're going to get to it at the end of the call. We have a dedicated session for it. So thanks again, Andrew. Hey, let's move on to another great topic, cloud-based solutions. And we hear so much about it for various, reasons. Xander, take us through this. I mean, from a sustainability standpoint, how can a cloud-based solution help?
Yeah, sure thing. So first, let's rewind just a little bit, because I feel as if we need to define what we're actually talking about. Traditionally, whether it was video, whether it was access control, intrusion, or any other type of security system, everything ran on servers. Those servers sitting inside the customer's four walls, somewhere in a back closet, with high cooling demands or the lack thereof of cooling. And this hardware that needed to be refreshed just every few years. And so cloud changes that. Instead of every organization maintaining its own hardware, these workloads are moving to a secure shared data centers that have been optimized for performance, optimized for efficiency, and for what we're talking about today, sustainability. And so the analogy that I like to use, say when I'm talking to my mom, because she still can't really comprehend it too well, is that running everything on-prem is very much like buying your own car. And even if you are only driving that car every once in a while, but cloud is more like ride sharing with fewer resources, higher efficiency, and still it gets us, whichever way you take, where we need to go to. And so that's what cloud is. Can you go to the next slide? I think I have to. Pretty sure. Yeah, there we go. So that's what cloud is. Now let's connect the dots to sustainability and why this matters to every corner of the security industry. For, say, today's talk, I'm just going to say that there are 4 corners. And so the first one being energy efficiency. There are numerous different independent studies that are out there that show that cloud workloads can be up to 5 times more energy efficient than the average enterprise server room that's out there. And then you have those hyperscale providers such as Amazon and Google with their data centers, where they have a power usage effectiveness of 1.1. That is about 10% overhead. And so that 10% overhead energy beyond the actual computing workload that is there. Very few of us are actually able to achieve that in our own local server closets. The second corner, I would say, is reducing e-waste. So every time that we replace servers, every time that we replace controllers or recorders or whatever your security equipment is, it goes into a waste stream. And by being able to consolidate these workloads into the cloud, we're able to cut down the churn, which means fewer boxes to maintain. It means fewer hard drives that we have to replace. The third corner, I would say, would be hybrid optimization. So whether you're managing video, whether you're managing access or alarms or environmental sensors like Halo, you don't need to push everything to the cloud in real time. So I'm going to say that again. You do not need to push everything to the cloud within real time. You have edge devices such as video security cameras that Dan's going to talk about later, I believe. But they can or process local data really on the device itself and then send only that important data upstream. These reduces the bandwidth. It lowers the storage waste. And frankly, it makes the system even more resilient. And then finally, the fourth corner would be supporting ESG and lead goals, because cloud in and of itself, it doesn't hand lead points by itself, but it contributes and it helps towards it. Being able to remove plug loads from server rooms, it lowers the overall efficiency of the building and the energy that the building uses. And feeding these occupancy or usage data into HVAC and lighting systems, these things create measurable energy savings. And being able to document and have that data that you can show, the facilities team can go on and show towards the credits in energy performance, the credits towards metering and demand management. So what's the big picture here? Because I would say that the big picture is moving to the cloud isn't just about modernization. It's not just about saving money, although both those things are true. It's more about being inclusive with the teams that you are working with within your companies, making security part of the sustainability strategy and cloud being not at the focus, but a part of that. And so from my vantage point, from an IT security perspective, it also means that you are future proofing. So instead of getting stuck with aging hardware that's out there, with regulations that are always evolving, cloud keeps you nimble. Cloud enables you to be flexible, and it gives you the data that you can measure, that you can report, and so that you can demonstrate the impact with all of those data points. Dan, I would say that the future of our industry isn't just about protecting assets. I think it's about creating safer, smarter, and greener operations. And all of us that are on this call, we actually have a front row seat to that transformation. And as they said on the previous call, that transformation and influences that transformation that's actually happening.
Yeah, that's great, Xander. I mean, you bring up so many points. I just want to tap into your past history. So you started out in IT, right? So I think, a lot of times in my projects, I'm talking IT, usually, as you're pitching a solution, saying, hey, this is going to make it more sustainable is not usually part of the presentation. But I mean, you brought up points that it should be. I mean, if you were talking to your previous self and, you're not really thinking, the IT person is not thinking about sustainability, like of all the points that you presented, where would you start to kind of get them to start to think about how this could actually make an impact sustainability, which will help their ROI as well?
Yeah, I believe that it starts with the planning aspect of it. And so, as I said towards the end of it, that in being inclusive with the teams that you're working with, sometimes we don't highlight or we're not aware of the teams that would be affected by what we're actually doing. And so now being in the part of the industry that I am in now, and if I was talking to my former self, one of the positions that I used to have was working at Moody's as an ISO. And so a lot of the times we were just doing a security loop as to, hey, how is this going to affect things and not have data be corrupted and not people getting penetrating? But there was no real thought towards how we bring in the energy use down towards our building to where it may go and shift someplace different. And so just being inclusive with the conversations that you're having, with the projects that you're even thinking about having, and who within your teams can contribute towards that.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Xander.
Yeah.
So I noticed the last point here, you have lead. I think that's the next topic I'd like to discuss because I didn't know much about it before I came over to Delta Electronics, and there's so much to it. But maybe, Jessica, can you break this down for just, got a few points here, but just take through anyone that is not familiar with what lead is. How does it apply to sustainability?
Yeah, so LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's the largest green building rating system in the world, developed by the U.S. Green Building Council. So basically, in very simple terms, it's a set of standards that developers, operators, designers, architects can kind of use as a guiding light to ensure that the buildings that they're designing, building, and working in are contributing to a healthy, sustainable world that will be here for years to come. So there's a lot of different categories that contribute to LEED. Like I said, LEED kind of encompasses the full life cycle from design to building to operating. So a ton of different aspects such as like environmental atmosphere, indoor air quality, sustainable sites, material resources. It can go on, but you start with being a certified LEED building and you go all the way up to becoming a platinum LEED building. So just something that is looked at from every aspect.
Excellent. So this is a certification. So to get the certification, I know you have to obtain points. It's kind of like a scorecard, a test. So
Yep.
Can you give us an example? I know something in your company, you've done something where you can show the benefit from the point system of what you offer.
Yeah.
So can you give us an example of that?
Yeah, definitely. So I work in a very niche market. I work in package management and multifamily housing. So often when you hear that, you're not immediately thinking sustainability or sometimes even physical security, but we are able to, with our systems, we contribute huge to environmental aspects. So if you think about a site that is maybe 300 units or so, a UPS driver has to deliver a package to 300 different apartments. They're turning their truck on and off, going in and out of doors. There's idle time on the truck. There's HVAC that's kicking on and off from all those doors opening. So a package management system, by implementing one of those in your community, you actually will qualify for some LEED credits, because now that UPS driver that was going in and out of buildings and turning his truck on and off now just has one stop at that community and can make all of his deliveries in one place. So we're able to offer LEED credits to those, drivers or those builders of that community. So there's often these kind of niche security products that maybe aren't your first thought of when you come to physical security and sustainability, but really it is becoming such a big market for those types of things.
That's great. I think on the next slide, you have some more examples of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So the categories here you see there on the left, those are just some of the larger lead categories that package management can be. But just as Xander was talking about earlier too, we also run all of our systems through the cloud. So this is another example of, instead of being on-prem, all of our systems are run through the cloud. We integrate with a lot of other providers in the network to just use the benefits of what partners in the industry are doing to make our products better. Our locker systems and package management in general is built to be strong and secure, which means we're using durable equipment that's built to last. We have systems out there for 10 plus years that are getting thousands of packages a month, still rocking and rolling and keeping up with the demands that are growing. We minimize, again, I know my area of expertise is a little niche and it can sometimes be overlooked, but if you think about without a package management system, where these packages go, they're piled up in a hallway, maybe like an emergency exit door that they're getting blocked. All of these things that when you have a package management system on site, packages are not cluttered in a building. They're keeping walkways open. They're making the building less crowded and allowing for airflow and emergency exits and all of those not so fun, glamorous parts of our industry that are so important and really lead to a sustainable, efficient building for the people that work there and the people that live there.
Yeah, that's great. I love this slide. I mean, I think it's a great example of taking something like I never thought, a smart package management system and showing how it benefits from a lead standpoint. And you think about it, what Xander just talked about, what Andrew talked about, I gotta believe you could do the same thing with a cloud-based solution, mobile credentials, how each of those can also contribute to lead.
Yeah, I know mobile credentials are, prior to the sales side of my life, I was on the product team as well and worked closely with the HID team, and our lockers are compatible with mobile credentials. So those sites that are using mobile can now use that credential to pick up and deliver packages. So I think integrating and seeing what else is in the space, the security space, and what other folks are doing. And we always try to, learn from our neighbors and integrate the same innovation into our systems, which innovation is right there on the screen as well.
Yeah, no, this is great. I just really encourage everybody on the call to, we've given, 3 distinct examples and all of them could apply to lead. But as you're out there and you're a manufacturer, you're a service integrator, think about, what you're providing, the product, the solution, the service your customer, and think about how, you can apply leads. So, I mean, all that information is online that you look at, but something really important. And then I noticed in the bottom of the slide, you talked about smart building. So I think I'm going to do the last one because that's the background I'm doing right now. And, there's so many definitions of what a smart building is, but essentially it kind of looks something like this. We got the building at, different floors, you got different spaces, you got people. And, the main goal, okay, not the only goal, but one of the main goals of a smart building is to save energy. Smart buildings have to save energy every day. And everyone I talk to, I'm actually at a conference here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin this week. That's one of the key topics about how to do that. So I want to talk about, how it can save energy, which is directly involved in sustainability. So there's a few interesting things that I'm going to talk about that you may not have thought about. But yeah, I'm going to talk about how you can use video and access control to save energy. Topic you probably haven't come across very often. So getting out of the security world and going into the HVAC world, there's this thing called ASHRAE. So ASHRAE is a bunch of standards, and they have a whole bunch of different standards. But I'm going to concentrate in just a few here. There's something called Guideline 36 and Standard 62.1, which specifies specifically HVAC operations ventilations for acceptable indoor air quality. And you're saying probably yourself, like, so what? Well, the way they dictate that is by occupancy. So if you go through these long standards they've gone through, they have tables where they break down every type of building that anyone could see in any city, anywhere, school, data center, office building, hospital, anything. So you start out with that, and then they break down the type of spaces in there. So, for example, in a school, they have a classroom. So then what you do is you basically have to use formulas, and you figure out the square footage of a room, and it dictates how much air should be going into that CFM based on the occupancy. So the way they traditionally figure this out is they will set up schedules, say, all right, well, the building really people start rolling in at about 8 a.m. So at that time, I'm going to start pushing in CFM based on the standard. And they leave about 6 o'clock, so then I'm going to start to bring it down. So that's what they were doing all in the past, based schedules. There's probably still a lot of those out there. But then newer technology, they're using CO2 sensors. So they put CO2 sensors on the building, and they monitor when the CO2 level rises. Then you start pumping in fresh air. But there's problems with that because those aren't exact, and sometimes people put them in the ducts. It's misrepresenting the room. So there's something new. It's been in standard long, but because technology now is capable to do this, something called explicit occupancy counting. And this is the most accurate. So if I can figure out how many people are in the room, then I could basically tell the HVAC system how much CFM, how much fresh air I need to pump in. So let's talk more about how to exactly do that. And one of the ways you can do that is by using physical security. So yes, you've seen this in different places. Let's start with the obvious one, video analytics, right? Video analytics is a great source of occupancy data. So we all go to the trade shows, we see demonstration of the analytics, but the key thing here is to separate and explain the analytics, because a lot of times, the people that I talk to in my world of now building automation, smart building, they're like, Dan, you're never going to use video cameras because they all have facial recognition. So I have to explain to them that there's a difference between facial recognition, face detection, and person detection or people detection. And that information can be pulled out without even ever seeing the video, pull that metadata out, and it complies with privacy. So you're not compromising personal identifiable information, PII, which is very important. And you can do the same thing with access control. So just example, yesterday at this conference, there was someone that presented about how they're taking the access control data and they're using for occupancy, and they don't need to drill down to know who is in the building. They don't care, but they are understanding the departments that come in the building. So they mine that access control data. They understand by department who's coming in the building, and then they know what floors those departments are. So this is useful information, but the idea is to collect whether it's the video information or the access control and integrate that data back into the building automation system to then dictate the CFM. And when you're doing that, okay, you're telling how much fresh air, which is really important because you don't want pulling in fresh air when you don't need it. Why? Because you're wasting energy. So just think about in any location where it gets really hot or really cold, when you're bringing in fresh air from the outside, you have to condition that air. The way you condition it is you're heating it, you're chilling it, and you're spending energy. So by understanding and have a more intelligent system, by leveraging video and access control to determine the occupancy, it's a great way to basically save in energy. So there's another pitch for everyone on the call. So sustainability to save energy, that's what you can do with physical security systems.
Yeah, Dan, can I add to that for a second? So
Absolutely.
even if video cameras and people get kind of suspicious a little bit and a little like, oh, they're watching me. So even if that is the case, there are different types of sensors and devices that don't have a video sensor to it or a camera sensor to it that is still able to count occupancy data within a room. And so those being such as Halo type devices that basically they are able to monitor who's coming in and out of room. It kind of does a people count. And then also sending that autonomy data back to a HVAC or a lighting system in order to contribute towards sustainability as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, what I tell people is that, look at your building space and figure out what sensors are out there. And it may change. The type of sensor you may put in may depend on the type of space. So in certain places, video control makes sense. Other spaces, like Halo, I'm familiar with that, makes sense. But even like, motion sensors. So putting those on a desk. But the idea is to use the data that you have and integrate it. And I think traditionally, as I've been spending a lot of time in the smart building space, people really have not thought about using video access control as a source of information to help with their building to save energy. And you absolutely can. That there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can keep the data, anonymous. So great points, Andrew. Andrew, Jessica, anything you want to add on this?
So, I mean, I will say, privacy is a concern, right, for a lot of people, and that's one of the things that we see. But for the groups of people that don't have that privacy concern, they're looking at from a standpoint of what is going to be the best experience for my employees and my residents. We can use some of this. I wouldn't say full PII data, but like we can use some of this data to say, you know what? When Dan comes in, we see this happening. When Dan comes in, like he likes the air conditioning to be at 68, right? And some people, when they come in, they're like, oh my God, it's so cold. I want it to be at 75. And using some of this access control data essentially to do what you're talking about, like an on-demand HVAC. There are solutions out there that can also say, you know what, like when Dan comes in, we'll set it to what he wants, and when Andrew comes in, we'll set it to what he wants, and when they're both here, we'll find somewhere in the middle, right? So we can use that for the on-demand side, but also tailor it not just for efficiency, but also like from a social standpoint to say what's going to be the best for their well-being of the employees and everyone that's inside, instead of just saying, hey, it's either on or off, because that's something that we see a lot of people on the 10X side are looking for on some of the smart buildings.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, this is talking about sustainability, but we know ESG, is another term for that. And you just hit on the S in ESG, right? The social side of it. And in a building, if you can make a better experience for people to go to work. I mean, let's face it, since COVID, people are not going back to work like they used to. So building owners are trying to figure out ways to get over this, and what a great solution to provide something as personalized as you used to describe. I'd want to work in that type of building where I can walk in and the building knows me, and basically, the HVAC comes on to the temperature I like. Maybe the lighting, I could change the lighting as well, but I could do all that from like a mobile credential like you talked about.
Yep. Yeah, mobile credentials is great. I mean, we talk about mobile as a lot of people say it's different from a physical credential. Some people say it's the same as a physical credential. But one thing that is apparent is that you're using newer technology and getting people to start using their mobile devices more. And currently today we see a lot of it is it's still using it as a proxy of identity, right? To say, hey, this is a person that we believe is Andrew, right? So we tie that very closely to them. A card can be shared, a card can be moved around, but for the most part, your phone or your watch is who you are. But what's really apparent, what's really like for the future is we're not necessarily training people to use their mobile devices, but we're getting to a point where if we are using their mobile devices more often or using something that has an online capability to get data back, we can have a bi-directional communication at some point, right? And say, you know what, instead of just using the credential as the mobile credential as something that I'm saying like this is who Andrew is, but like maybe I can get some data back, right? And say like, hey, when I tap this, like maybe something else will happen. So it's really the future, and getting people to understand more of the use cases of around mobile instead of just thinking of it as like, hey, it's a replacement of cards, is really a strong conversation to have. And this is not just an ESG conversation. We talk about this all the time, and SIA has published a bunch of articles about that as well. Always love to hear more about mobile.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. Jessica, anything to add on this?
Yeah, no, I think it's just, I know since signing up and being part of this conversation, it's got me thinking a lot more. And I think that we think about the employees and the residents that live in these buildings. They care as well. They care about sustainability when they're thinking about a place to live or a place to work. If it means moving to a building maybe that they see as paying attention to these things and making investments to not only make my life better, but my son's life and their kids' life. Like it's an important aspect that I think that we really need to do more conversations and publicity on, because often we're talking about this fun new feature that we're integrating and this new amenity that's coming out to the building, but we don't talk about it in like an environmental or sustainability way. So this really is a great reminder to make sure that we're polishing that, because it is important to the people that are benefiting from it. And, it could be a decision maker that prevents somebody from moving to the building next door or to your building here. So it's something that, this has been a great reminder for me for sure to make sure that I'm talking through these things and spending the extra 5 minutes of my calls to highlight that.
No, that's great. You said decision maker. I'll use the word maybe stakeholder. And I think traditionally in security side, we're talking about to security, we're talking IT, but there could be a director of sustainability in the room, right? The CFO's in the room. So, I say to everyone on the call, as we're going about and we're talking about the obvious benefits of physical security for security applications, think about, the broader audience of who you're talking to. And from a sustainability standpoint, from a lead standpoint, from an energy management standpoint, how the things that we're talking about can add benefit. I think that pulls us into a much bigger, broader conversation and just provides an overall better return on security. Yeah, great points. Thank you. All right. I think we got a recap here. So, I always like to end presentations kind of talking about some key takeaways basically we talked about. So, to me, as we've been talking about, is that physical security can do a lot more than just security and sustainability and just basic things like reducing the need for materials that are harmful to the environment, contribute to lead points across multiple categories. I think it's a big one. Again, I'm going to, invite everyone to go back and, after, these sessions, go back and really, if you don't know about lead, look at that and figure out how your solutions can contribute. It's going to make a difference. And the last thing is, and this opens up a totally different type of conversation with different stakeholders, like we just talked about, is how these solutions can actually save energy by just integrating that data and integrate that with things that are traditionally siloed building systems. So there's great value there. So I'll go around the room. So, key takeaways. I mean, anything you guys and girls would like to add, advice for people on the call. Andrew, you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, you made a great point, right? So lead mobile credentials are obviously that was one that I figured was a given, but yeah, definitely lead is very important, and look at the different sustainability different certifications, as well as not just in the United States, but across the world. I mean, this is not just there's laws in multiple different states. Like New York State has one that they have a reduction by 2030 that they're looking for, and I think another one that's even a little further out. And so you look at the laws in the what you're trying to do, so you're not coming out trying to catch up when you find out about these things later, right? So be proactive about your approach to ESG. Also, think about how it can help your operational side of your business, not just try to tick a box, but say, hey, like, is there something here that could potentially make my business problem actually better, right? So what we just talked about like on-demand HVAC with the people, while that is going to be obviously helpful for the environment, it's also going to make your employees happier, which is going to make them come into work more, right? So things like that. And then lastly, from a mobile standpoint, is just think about really what you're currently doing today. I mean, physical cards, for instance, a lot of people think of it as a one-time cost, but really the data suggests that organizations replace about 20% of their cards every year just from people lost or stolen. So again, going back to that card that you found in the grass. So it really just, if you think about what you're doing today, it's probably not what could be done in the future. That isn't really that much. I wouldn't say more expensive, but it's not that much more of an investment. It's just a change of thought.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just going to add what you said. So you're talking about in New York City. So you're talking about local law 97, right? So local law 97, for what I know, is any building that's over 25,000 square feet has to basically meet certain emissions by 2030. I think it starts next year, and then the fines keep increasing by 2030. But I talked to a lot of building owners, and they're trying to figure out what to do. I mean, the obvious thing to do is like, all right, I'm going to put solar on the roof, right, to get some energy there. But skyscrapers in New York City only have so much square footage, so they have to kind of rethink their strategy within the building about how to save energy. It's a really key issue going on right now. And there's other states, United States, that are also starting to adopt similar type laws. And again, people scrambling to figure out what to do about it. So great points, Andrew. Xander, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I am as I hear the entire conversation, I have my IT security, cyber lens, and ESG lens kind of all on. All of this conversation comes to me a convergence point of all these different areas that were once segregated and segmented being a convergence of all of them coming together. And throughout this, what I'm thinking is that the as you are thinking about maybe how to implement with basically everything that you've heard kind of maybe throughout this week, that data minimization within all of this, I believe is key. Having my security hat on for a moment. And so with that, to as you're thinking about this, as you're collaborating to, and if you do move on to implementing, hopefully you do, collect only the data that you need, and to keep it only as long as you need and protect it at every stage of that process. And this is easier said than done sometimes, but in practice, using as example the whole people counting and faces, if we are designing systems where privacy is now being built in and not bolted on, then when we do that, taking the example of occupancy data, it becomes more of a sustainability tool that all of us are able to trust just a little bit more. Everyone from the facilities team to IT to even the people that are inside the building. And so those are kind of the thoughts that hit me as we sum up this call.
Excellent. Thank you. Jessica, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you guys did a great job kind of summarizing everything. I think kind of to Xander's last point there is when you're working with your vendors and the people you choose for your physical security, find the partners that are easier to integrate. You don't want two different companies on site collecting the same amount of data. If one company's doing it, it's better to integrate so they're not, double doing the work and then having all of the impact of that down the road. But I think really, at the end of the day, I think conversation really opened up that physical securities are more than just access and protection. They're really great tools that we can use to keep our buildings running cleaner and smarter and just future ready so that the generations to come can enjoy them as much as we are today.
Yeah, that's great. Each of you talk about data. If I had a magic wand, I'd like to be able to control every meeting where I go into a customer and I say, all right, before we start the conversation, talk to me about problems, but also talking about all the data that is available. And I like to have the little sticky notes and put it up on a board. And I like to go around and just kind of say, all right, now I heard all your problems. Now let's go around. Let's start taking these sticky notes off the board. Oh, look at that. I can grab that. I can pull it together. And I just wish every meeting would be like that. I try hard, but a lot of times I can't get the right people in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's actually interesting if you look at a lot of organizations. There's so many different innovations and different enhancements they can do with just the data they already have. They don't need to get more data. And a lot of companies always come out and think like, oh, we need more data. It's like, well, wait a second. Let's take a step back, look at all the data you already have, and maybe we can start doing some things with that alone. And they'd be surprised to find that they're actually going to do a lot of positive change with that data.
Yeah, I'll just tell you one story. So I've talked to a few people, and some of these large organizations will hire, data scientists to kind of do this work. So they have this system. They have all these different disparate systems, and then they'll pull in the data scientists, the high data scientists to go through and figure out what I just described. And then they deploy a IDL, independent data layer, where they basically collect all the data, they normalize it and try to figure out how to, route it to the right system to make everything work. But if we could just do all that type of discussion in advance, whether it's a new build or retrofit, the benefits are just, wild to me. Not just from the security standpoint, from all the things we're talking about. So I just think it's a different philosophy that we have to start applying as we go about and doing projects every single day. Great. Thank you everyone for participating. I'm not sure we have any questions from the audience.
That's okay. I am famous at this point for coming up with questions.
Awesome.
Thank you all very much. That was a really great topic, especially so I'm the chair of the ESG advisory board for SIA, and hearing more about the security aspect is always really interesting, especially from the selection of companies. One of the questions I had was, I think you probably all have kind of a little bit varying perspectives since you've worked for different organizations, but how do you help clients balance sustainability goals with the performance and reliability when choosing security solutions?
It's a great question.
I'm also known for asking all the hard questions, just so you know.
So I'll take a stab. So not to plug who I work for, but at Motorola, one of the departments that we have is called A&E. And basically what they do is they come alongside potential customers and integrators as well when they are designing a particular system. And so one contribution that they may come up with, say as it pertains to video, is how much bandwidth is actually being used. And so you can narrow down as to how much you want to use, right? And so they'll do a whole analysis depending on what the camera is, how much speed that they have within the organization and such. And so I think that's where that whole planning aspect that I talked about as I was chatting earlier comes into it. Just collaborating, seeing and speaking as to who may be able to help. Perhaps there are other organizations, I'm sure, that are manufacturers that have departments such as this that can contribute towards your success with sustainability.
Yeah, I'll give you an answer. I love the question. So to me, what will tip the balance one or the other is cost, right? So that always comes down to ROI. So going back to what we talked before about just, occupancy sensors. So I've heard a lot of people basically going and deploying the little, battery occupancy sensors that have to change the battery every single year. And I would say, great, you could do that, or you could start taking advantage of some of the data you have. Obvious place to start, access control. The system's there, just start looking at data. That's the best source to tell you what's in the building. I mean, another example, in the building automation world, they use building automation controllers for the HVAC, but they use separate system for lighting control. You could use the same thing and you could save money. So to me, it's about saving on the cost. And wherever you save the cost, that is going to tip the scale in your favor by just showing the ROI of what you're proposing.
Everybody loves when it costs less.
Everybody
It's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Just another one on my end, and everybody in the audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Happy to cover those as well. You talked a lot about cloud-based solutions, going mobile, credentials, that kind of thing. When you see these technologies coming into play, how do you are there metrics that are already established that you're looking into, that kind of thing, to be able to sell those kind of attributes to help organizations become more environmentally responsible, meet their sustainability goals? Have you, I guess maybe even a step further there, have you found yet that you're able to sell those products that you've done that work on the sustainability attributes? Sorry, that was a lot.
Yeah, I think I could take a stab here. I think Luxor, we're a ASA ABLE company, so we have the benefit of having that parent company, and sustainability is such a big part of what they do that has really kind of seeped into our business. But a lot of times we'll look at what some of our sister companies are deploying and what's important to them, and integrate that into what we're doing. Like mobile credentials is one of them. We know that there's a huge focus for that in the HID world, and there's a lot of use cases where that mobile credential can be used within our locker network to pick up, deliver, manage it. So that was something that we were really focused on, and we know from them that they had a whole batch of customers that was really important to them. So then we could, kind of piggyback off of that. And then, once they've deployed that mobile credential, now they've got the benefit of having a locker network that is immediately compatible with that. So again, kind of just finding security vendors and suppliers that are integrating and looking at what others are doing, so that if you're investing in one technology and adding another, that if they can work together, that just makes both technologies that much more powerful on your site.
Yeah, Renee, I'm going to try to answer both of those questions that you asked in kind of like a combination because it's something that we think about a lot, right? Because I think they tie into the same goal, which is like, what is the outcome of the business outcomes that these companies are trying to solve? Unfortunately, in the security industry, and I think somebody put in the chat that security products are like not the go-to products that specifiers think of, like for lead specifically, but it goes to a larger problem, which is typically the people that we talk to in security, and I say typically, they're usually not empowered to help solve business problems. They're usually operational issues. So they'll come in and say, "Hey, I need to secure this door, or I need something that's going to do visitor management." Like they're just going through the motions, right? And something that actually happened at another CA event, which is Securing Your Ground last year. A lot of the largest companies in our industry, so to speak, on the end user side, they said, "Hey," they actually opened a question and said, "Hey, why aren't you guys building products that like are solving like some of the business problems that we want, like certain things that we want?" And I didn't say this, but I'm going to say it now in this webinar. I almost wanted to turn back and say, well, that's because the people that we have access to aren't empowered to buy those products that are actually going to solve these problems. You're telling them to basically solve the operational problems that they have. So the interesting thing about this is to now go back to hey, how do we position our products, for more of the sustainability side is we can and we do. We just need to reach the right people. So when you talk about like trying to sell into these different organizations, you can't just sell to one person anymore. You need to bring in multiple different departments and multiple different stakeholders in these end user organizations. And that's how you get a holistic view of solving a holistical problem for them, not just one specific area. And I think that Jessica and the company that she works for, I mean, they're successful in that. And they pitched the different parts of that because when they reach those certain people, we do as well. And I imagine other companies that are successful in starting to solve the business problems for these companies can do that as well. And the last point about the first one is how do we recommend? Now that was like kind of a brain. This one's harder, and this was like when I smiled when you said it, is because there's really no. I said no. I'm going to pick my words carefully here. There's no widely adopted standards in our industry today. There are, we're trying to, and we're really trying to push this, but because all our products are so similar, it's really just like who's better at selling in a sense to get these products in there. But I think end users are starting to really understand that the future and what they put in today is going to last for a very long time because we all create really good products that last a very long time. So they're starting to think more about, hey, is this going to solve my problem not just only today, but maybe 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line? And that's a really important thing that we try to bring up to people is when you choose your products, whether it's something we offer or not, think about what this is going to do to impact your company in 5 to 10 years from now, not just today. So that's typically how we handle things.
Right. Thank you. I think, sorry.
Hey, Renee, I'll just add in 30 seconds, at Delta Electronics, we love the before and after scenario. So you asked about, how do you show the benefit of this? So what I mean by before and after is a retrofit. So, deploying, Delta Electronics energy saving solutions, and you understand what their current energy usage is, and you start deploying different solutions to save energy, and you start seeing the benefits, you're saying 40%, 50%, 60%. That is a great story. Just makes everyone in the room just light up to be really happy of what they accomplished together.
Right. I think a lot of manufacturers at this point, I work for a distribution organization, so we work with the suppliers to work with their customers. So I think more and more I'm beginning to see more of them think about the circularity and end of life aspect, and how do they make their product more efficient if it uses power. It's kind of the trends that I've seen on my end with the company that I work for. I wanted to thank all of you very much for your time. I love your presentation. Thank you for sharing all of your perspectives. Really appreciate that. To close out today, as we got about a minute left, I'll try to talk really fast. If you are interested in joining either the ESG Advisory Board or the Built Environment Board, Adam put her email in the chat box. Please feel free to reach out to her. I think I will speak for Dan, but we would love to hear from anybody that is interested in either of these two groups with the advisory boards for SEIA. Also wanted to give a heartfelt thank you to all of the speakers, all of the attendees, SEIA, the organization, for sponsoring and helping sponsor this event. Also Alloy and HID, appreciate your sponsorship. And this is a huge topic, relevant topic. We covered many things over the last 3 days. If you have any questions, I'm on LinkedIn. I don't know about anybody else, but feel free, I think, to probably reach out to any of the speakers across these last 3 days. I'm sure they're all more than happy to talk about all the many things that we talked about over the last 3 days. But as we close out, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and look forward to the next time we all get together. Thanks. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.